All right, I wanted to give you all a brief video to show you how to get started on this worksheet. I'm going to have you do this over the weekend, and then we're going to bring it into class, and we'll go through your answers to each one. I'll call on each one of you to give us one of the answers to each one of the questions. But I thought I'd get you started by showing you two different, we'll go through numbers 1 and number 2 on this video, and then I'll leave you to do the rest over the weekend. So the first thing we're going to have you do is to graph the data. Now we're going to use this graph right here, and what I'll have you do to begin with is to give it some values up the side. The second thing we'll do is to give it values on the bottom. So now what you'll see is we have two different groups. We have the no calorie and calorie group, and we have the no caffeine and caffeine groups. Now we're going to have to represent both of these on this chart. So just so we're all graphing things the same, what I want you to do is on every one of your graphs to put the no calorie group on the left and the calorie group on the right. Now, just to give you a little bit of context, what all of these data points are showing us is how energetic people might feel after they're drinking different types of soft drinks, either caffeinated or non-caffeinated, and either high calorie or low calorie. And what you'll see here is there's a variety of different combinations. People might drink a caffeinated beverage that's high in calories. You could think of this as like Coke. It could be a caffeinated but diet drink, so like Diet Coke. A decaffeinated but high calories, this would be like caffeine-free Coke. And decaffeinated diet drink like caffeine-free Diet Coke. So if that makes sense, what we're going to do is then graph what people's energy levels are like after they consume each one of these. So on the bottom now, we've put the no calorie group on the left and the calorie group on the right. So what we want to do next is we want to give some symbols to refer to the no caffeine and the caffeine group. So for each one of your groups, what I want you to do is to use a circle to refer to the no caffeine group. And I want you to use a square to refer to the caffeine group. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to graph each one of these. So let's take an example over here. Let's first graph the no caffeine, no calorie group. See if I can circle that for you. There you go. The no caffeine, no calorie group. So this gets a value of 5. That's how energetic they were. So we're going to go up 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to use a circle because it's the no caffeine. And we'll put it right here because it's the no calorie group. So no calorie, no caffeine gets a 5. We'll move on to the next one, which is the caffeine, no calorie. So we're going to put it again under this no calorie column, but this time we're going to use a square. So again, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what we find is it gets the exact same value. So that caffeine group is right on top of the no caffeine group, and that's how we'll represent it. We'll do the same thing with the no caffeine but high calorie group. And we'll put that over here. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to draw the no caffeine or the caffeine calorie group, which is also a 5. Go right here. And the way that we'd represent the lines between, typically we connect the circles with a line, and we connect the squares with a line. So I'll just draw 2 lines to show that this is the relationship between them. So now what we want to know, now that we've graphed it, we want to know, okay, let's break down the overall main effects. So what we want to find out is, let's average all of the calorie groups. So let me delete, put that back for us. Let's see if it'll let us. Put that back, and we'll move that right onto there. There we go. Okay, so now what we want to do, let me delete a couple of these things. Now what we want to do is we want to find the average of the calorie groups. So we're going to take both of these together and we're going to find the average. Here it's pretty easy. The average of the calorie groups is 5. So down here, I'm going to write, let's delete this, that the average of the calorie groups is 5. Next, we're going to find the average of the no calorie groups right here. Okay, because we want to know in general, regardless of what the caffeine level is, how did people who drank diet beverages, no calorie drinks, how did they score on their energy? And what we find is they scored an average of 5 as well. The average of 5 and 5 is 5. Okay, so I'll delete these. Okay, so now what we want to know is, what is the difference between these? You could think of setting it up like a subtraction problem. The average of the calories minus the no calories is going to give us the estimated average effect of calories. Here it's 0. In other words, when we move from no calories, when we move from no calories, let me delete that, go 0. When we move from no calories up to calories, what we find is adding calories doesn't do anything to our energy level. In other words, the average effect of adding calories is nothing. Okay? We can see it over here on our right graph because when we move from one side to the other, we find a level line. In other words, our energy score isn't on average going up or down when we average all of these no calories versus, here's all the no calories versus all of the calories on the right hand side. Okay. So let's do the same thing now for the caffeine groups. So to find we're going to find first the average of the caffeine groups. So what we do is we take these right here, and we're going to average those caffeine groups together. Again, the average of 5 and 5 is going to be 5. The average of the caffeine groups is going to be 5. We'll do the same thing over here with the no caffeine groups. And what we're going to find again is the average of 5 and 5 is 5. So now what we want to know is what happens when we go from no caffeine to adding caffeine. How does energy level change? And it turns out it doesn't change at all. So this is an example of data that shows no overall main effects of calories, 0, and no overall main effects of caffeine, 0. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. We'll walk through the next one, and then I'll let you do the rest of them on your own. Okay, and actually, we're going to do a more complex one. Let's do number 4, just because number 4 is going to get a little bit more complex, and I want you to at least have an example of what this looks like. So let's first of all start out by graphing it. So again, we have the no cals, and we have the calorie group over here, and we'll use those same, let's see if we can copy that. We'll use the same key up here, which is that no caffeine and the caffeine. The no caffeine we're going to give a square, and the caffeine we're going to give a square, and the no caffeine a circle. Okay, so now let's actually graph these. So let's start out with our no caffeine, no calorie. So in the no caffeine, no calorie, we're going to start from the no calories. We're going to go up 8. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to give that a circle for the no caffeine. And actually, let's do, there we go. Let's give that a circle. Perfect. Now we're going to do the no caffeine and the calorie group. Okay, so again, we're going to use a circle for the no caffeine, but this time we're going to put it under the calorie group. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over here. Let's move these out of the way a little bit. Okay, and we're going to go 6 right there. So up 6. And one of the things that we can do is we can join those together with a line. That shows us what is calories doing within the caffeine group. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we'll graph our no-calorie caffeine group. So under the on the no calories, the left-hand side, we're going to put a square. This time we're only going to go up 2 because our value is 2, our energy value is 2. And for the last one, our caffeine calorie group, and that is at 0. So our caffeine calorie group, we're going to put down here right on the line as 0. And what we'll do here is we'll again draw a line to connect these. Okay, now what I want to show you is a couple of effects that we see. So let's take a look and let's actually answer some of these questions that we have here. So first of all, what is the average of the calorie groups? So here, the average of the calorie groups right here, the average of 6 and 0 is 3. So the average of our calorie groups, average of our calorie groups is 3. What's the average of our no calorie groups? Well, the average of 8 and 2, you can add 8 and 2 together is 10. Divided by 2 is 5. The average of 8 and 2 is 5. So the average of our no calorie groups down here is 5. Now, what is the estimated average effect of calories? What we want to do is think about what happens when we add calories. What happens when we go from a no calorie to a calorie group? And what we find is the estimated average effect of calories is -2. When we go from no calories to calories, so no calories up to the calories, we find that our energy decreases by 2. The way that we can see that visually, I'll just show this to you really quickly. Visually, we see that the average of these no calorie groups is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The average is right there. The average over here of the calorie groups is 3, right here. So on average, what we find is when we add calories, energy decreases. Okay? You don't have to go through and graph them in this way. You don't have to graph the averages or the means, but I just wanted to show that to you using the same kind of data that we've seen in other lectures. Okay, so let's delete this just so we don't confuse everything. Okay, then the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at the average of the caffeine groups. So the average of the caffeine groups, the average of 2 and 0 is 1. And then the average of the no caffeine groups, the average of 8 and 6 is 7. What's the average effect of caffeine? Well, what happens when we go from no caffeine to high caffeine? Paradoxically, we probably wouldn't find this in real life, but paradoxically what we find is when we go from no caffeine to caffeine, we find that caffeine lowers our energy levels by 6. How can we see that visually? Well, let's take a look here on the graph. We see the average of the no caffeine groups, and we see that right around here at a 7. If we take a look down below, and we find the average of the caffeine groups, the average of the caffeine groups is at a 1. Oops. There you go, at a 1. So in other words, what we find is that when we move from no caffeine to caffeine, our energy level is decreasing by 6 on average. Okay, what I want you to do for this worksheet is to go through and fill out the rest of the worksheet, graphing each one of them, and then answering each one of these questions for the average of the groups and the estimated average, or what we'll call the overall main effect of each one of the variables. And we'll come back in class and discuss your answers.